All right, so you were making phospholipids at your desk. You've got your marshmallows, okay, and your toothpicks. So the marshmallows represent the heads, and we said the heads like water, so what term is that? They like water? Hydrophilic. So what I want you to do with your pipe cleaners, you should have 2 pipe cleaners. The pipe cleaners are going to be your little protein channels. So here's my 1 pipe cleaner. Okay, so you're going to make a little channel. That's going to be your protein. Okay, so put that channel in between your phospholipids. Now, I'm going to hand out a sheet. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be showing how different things move through the cell membrane. And you're going to be drawing a picture before and after, so we're going to be showing how different things move through the cell membrane. Okay? So you have your little, this is your little diagram. All right? The other thing that I wanted to show you, I'm going to come around and give you guys some little pipe cleaners, okay? So remember we said that there are proteins that are inside that are channels. There's also receptor or surface proteins, okay? These surface proteins stick out of the top of the cell membrane. So that, remember we said if the cell bumps into something, these little proteins that are sticking up out of the top can be sensed by another cell, and then it will tell the cell what what type of cell it is, right? So cells don't have eyes, so that's how cells are able to kind of see or feel. I'm just going to give you a couple. You can just stick them in through like by the top, like how I did. A couple of little pipe cleaners here. So these are kind of like, they're also involved in signaling, so they help send signals and messages. It's kind of like, you can think of it kind of like a cell phone tower, right? These little things sticking up are like little cell phone towers that get signals from the cell and send them to the nucleus and tell them what's going on. So the first thing we're going to be using, we're going to be using those oxygen molecules. I'm going to hand out your sheet where we're going to be drawing this, but we're going to be using those oxygen molecules first. Okay, so here's your worksheet. If you would like, you definitely do not need to color this, but if you feel so inclined and you want to get colors, go for it. You know where my colors are. Just pass those back. All right, so here's your sheet. We're going to be showing how different things move through the cell membrane, and we're going to be drawing pictures to illustrate it, because different things move differently through the cell membrane, depending on if they're big or small or require protein or what. So on this sheet, it says, I can show how oxygen and carbon dioxide move through the cell membrane through the process of diffusion. Okay, so I want you to get all of your little oxygen pieces. Okay, find all your little oxygen squares. I'm actually going to redraw my cell membrane so it's a little smaller. So on your box, on your sheet, you have a box that says before. And you have a box that says after. In both cases, we are going to need to draw our little marshmallow phospholipid cell membrane, right? So you can go ahead and Draw that. Our channel. All right, so before, okay, where would oxygen want to go? Into the cell or out of the cell? It would want to go into the cell, okay, because we need oxygen in order to make energy. So if it's moving from diffusion, okay, is it going to move from high to low or low to high? High to low because it's passive, okay? So what I want you to do is take your little oxygens, okay, and put your little oxygen molecules, a high concentration, outside of the cell. So put a lot outside of the cell. So put a lot of them outside the cell. Good. So outside is going to be the top part. So put all your little oxygens, a whole bunch of them outside the cell. You might have like 1 or 2 inside the cell. Now we said diffusion doesn't use a protein. It can, but it doesn't have to. Okay, so what I want you to do is actually show some of these little oxygen molecules. What they do is they squeeze through the phospholipids. So you might have to spread out your phospholipids, your marshmallows. Okay, they actually move by squeezing through the phospholipids. So they're actually going to go in between these phospholipids. Okay, so I want you to take your oxygens, okay, move them all to inside of the cell by moving them through these phospholipids. Now, when's it going to stop? When are these molecules going to stop? When it reaches equilibrium, right? So what I want you to show on this side then is about an equal amount on either side, okay? All right, when you get done with that, answer the blanks up above on the top of that sheet. Okay, so it says, what part of the cell membrane does it move through? What part does it move through? The phospholipids. It is moving from what concentration to what concentration? High to low. All right, and then it's going to reach until it reaches what? Equilibrium. Good. So this was oxygen. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at water. So move all of your little oxygens aside. You don't need them. You need the little blue beads that are in the little grass beads that are in your thing. Okay. We'll make water go into the cell because we know cells need water. We know it could go in or out of the cell, right? If water is going into the cell, what kind of solution is it in? Hypertonic, hypotonic, isotonic? Hypotonic, right? Because water is moving in, and so the cell is going to get bigger, okay? So let's show water moving in. So the first thing I need you to do, high concentration of water outside of the cell. Okay, so you're going to have to take a second. Draw your little cell membrane again. These are going to be cell membrane drawing pros by the end of this. Now, it says osmosis. Remember, osmosis is a type of passive transport. So it's going to go from high to low again, right? Very similar to oxygen, okay? So again, we're going to see it. It's going to squeeze through those phospholipids. So on your drawing, make sure you draw these arrows, because I want you to show where that water is traveling through. So again, it's going to move until it reaches equilibrium. Okay, so osmosis and diffusion are both passive transport. They're going from high to low. Okay, so fill in those blanks. What part of the cell membrane does it move through? Phospholipids. It's going to go from what concentration to what concentration? High to low. Okay, until it reaches equilibrium. All right, move your water out of the way. Now I need you to get your potassium. Potassium's kind of funny because it's the element name is, or it, the symbol is a K, which is kind of funny because there's no K in potassium, but that's what it is. So now we're moving on to sodium and potassium. What do you notice about the sodium or about the potassium molecules? They're really big, okay? So you might have to make your channel a little bigger on your table, okay? So remember, sodium and potassium pumps are an example of active transport, okay? So we said in active transport, we're going from low to high, okay? So in this case, what I want you to do, I want you to show, let's say, we'll say they're still moving the same way. So we will say that we're going to have 2 potassiums down here and 1 outside, okay? So my potassium, let's make it a green color. Yeah, I did. Forget a phospholipid, one of these guys. So this is active transport and it's going from low to high. Where is my potassium going to go? Into the cell or out of the cell? Going from a low concentration to a high concentration. Where's there a low concentration? Outside. Okay. So remember, it doesn't want to even out in active transport. In active transport, we're trying to push more water up into that dam, right? So we're trying to put more and more on one side, right? So now this guy, he's going to want to go into the cell, okay? Is he going to be able to fit through the phospholipids? No, okay? So he's going to have to go through the protein channel, okay? So you can move him through your protein channel. And in the end then, we're going to have a big concentration and a little concentration. Okay? So in our blanks then that we're filling in, what part of the cell membrane do they move through? Okay, the protein channel or just the protein. Sometimes you'll hear it as a sodium-potassium pump. You might hear it as a pump because it's pumping them through. Okay, so it says they move by active transport, so they move from what concentration to what? Low to high. Okay, and notice their equal concentrations are not reached at the end, so the concentrations are not in equilibrium. Good. All right, so fill in this Venn diagram about active and passive transport. It gives you choices at the top. When you're done filling that in, you can turn it in. Okay, and then I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to finish the review worksheet from yesterday. If you weren't here yesterday, come talk to me and I will get you one. All right, we're going to move on. If you did not finish the review, just finish that for homework, okay? So the next thing we're going to be talking about prokaryotes and eukaryotes, how they're different, which we've talked about already, but they also have a difference when it comes to, there's something that has to do with the membranes that we're going to talk about. So it relates to membranes, and that's why we're talking about it in this unit, okay? Do you guys remember when we talked about prokaryotes and eukaryotes? Can anyone remember a difference between the two? One is simpler, right? So the prokaryote is simpler, and this is more complex, the eukaryote, okay? Anyone remember which one had a nucleus? The eukaryote. Remember we said pro rhymes with no, so pro has no nucleus. So no nucleus, okay? This has a nucleus. Anyone have anything else? Yeah. Yep, good, excellent. So smaller in size. So like little things like little bitty bacteria, these are bigger in size. Yeah. Good. So prokaryotes have a cell wall. Okay. We also talked about membrane-bound organelles, okay, meaning organelles that have, or like pieces that have a membrane, okay? So the eukaryote has membrane-bound organelles. And we said the prokaryote typically came first. It was really like the first cell because it was really simple, and then eukaryotes evolved from the prokaryotes, okay? So what I want to show you are some examples of cell organelles that we have talked about, okay? So I highlighted a couple things. We see the mitochondria here and the chloroplast here. Notice on both of them they have an outside membrane and an inside membrane. An outside membrane, an inside membrane. They have two membranes. Same thing here with the nucleus, which I crossed off a whole bunch of the other labeled parts, but this is the nucleus. It has an inside membrane and an outside membrane. Okay, when we say membrane-bound organelles, we just mean there's a membrane around the organelles, okay? But these organelles are unique. They have two membranes, okay? Two membranes. So we're going to look at how these evolved, and it has to do with the cell membrane, okay? So remember, these membranes are similar to a cell membrane, but they're a little bit different. So I'm going to show you a video clip, and I want you to think about prokaryotes and eukaryotes and how they evolved, and see if you can figure out these different parts in this video and what they stand for. All right, so if we think about this, okay, little John, right, and little Jim, what parts of the cell did they represent? So little John can make energy. Which part of the cell can make energy? The mitochondria, right? And which part can make food from sunlight? The chloroplast, right? So little John and little Jim are chloroplasts and mitochondria. They're bacteria okay, that eventually become swallowed up through endocytosis by a bigger cell, and then they end up becoming the chloroplast and mitochondria, and that's why they have two membranes, okay? Because they already had one, but when they get swallowed up by another cell, they're getting that double membrane. We'll talk more about this tomorrow.